NFL MVP voting. We went from 10 to 1. Scott Wilson, Will Castle, Bob Alvis. That's your panel. The Chew on This crew broke down the NFL MVP voting. We discussed why we have who we have. Some stats were brought to the table as well. Listen to it right here on the Sports Buffet podcast. The Chew on This crew. We really need t-shirts. Bob Alvis, Will Castle, Scott Wilson to talk about the NFL MVP. We're going to rank our top 10 as I think that's what the actual voters do. I don't think they just vote 1, 2, and 3. I think
they might do 5, but maybe they do 10.
All right, well, we're special. Okay. We're going 10, and we're going to start with our last place guy and work up to our MVP. I'll start. I got Cam Newton 10th.
I do too.
I can't disagree with that. I got Romo, though.
Okay. Why?
Still had 4,000 yards passing. His interceptions were a lot smaller, and they proved he ain't playing, they ain't winning.
I've been so impressed with Newton. I really thought he was not going to be any good, and I think he could be like one of the 3 best players in the league in a couple of years.
He had over 4,000 yards.
I'm going to credit Andy Shepard because I also said I didn't think Cam Newton was going to be worth a damn.
He put you in the gut at that point.
Andy said, "You watch," and you know.
He also set a record for most rushing touchdowns. And
I enjoyed every one of them. I just think if you take Cam Newton off Carolina, and this is the way I kind of look at MVP, they're picking first again, probably. You know, I just think.
And the beauty part for them, in fact, they're still going to pick high. They don't pick quarterback. You know. And we'll get to that.
We'll get to that part in another podcast. 9th.
MJD.
I want another bad team. Jared Allen.
22 sacks.
Marshawn Lynch. I mean, again.
I will say they had no quarterback, so
it's kind of. I go off the.
Not a lot.
You take away Marshawn Lynch. I mean, he's probably the most improved player, if you can say. I mean, it's not to say he sucked.
How old is he? Seems like he's been in the league forever.
Not that old.
I would say he's probably like 27 or 28.
I think he's only been in the league about 4 years, 5 years.
Because I think he was in Cal, not too long ago.
He started a career in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Rumored to be drafted by the Packers when the draft was, and that could have really made people not know they were going to throw the ball every other play, but. I've got Lynch, Allen for the reasons, again, just a sack.
I wanted to pick at least one defensive player, and he was the best choice. He had, 3 sacks in the last game to come a half sack short of the record, and I would have loved it if he'd beaten Strahan's record.
And, after Strahan's bullshit record when Favre just sat on the ground.
Yeah.
I'm very surprised that the team record for the Vikings was owned by Chris Dolman. I thought John Randall would have had that. Honestly, I don't know if you guys remember John Randall. I would
Did he play the Eagles at some point? I thought, or did he spend his entire career in Minnesota?
I think he bounced somewhere at the end.
For some reason, I thought he played for Seattle at some point.
I think he did play for Seattle at the very, very end. But I mean, he was an absolute monster.
Yeah.
And not to digress here real quick, but I think defensive players that get a lot of notoriety sometimes aren't that good. That they just get the notoriety, and a lot of the best defensive players are the ones we don't know the names of.
Yeah.
Like, Jeremiah Bell has had good years. I mean, I'm just throwing out a name. But, I'm not saying Urlacher and Ray are overrated.
Well, I think, for example, one of my favorite defenders is Haloti Ngata on the Ravens, and what recognition does he get?
He'll get it in a few years when Ray Lewis and Ed Reed are there. But, anywho, and your pick again, I'm sorry, MJD?
Yeah. 1,600 yards rushing on a team that just, holy God, he should have just taken a year off and rested. He should have said, no, let's just get a good pick. I'm going to take this year off.
I'm going to take the paycheck and...
Yeah. Why not? I mean,
But you could have done what Chris Johnson did. Take a year off.
8th or 3rd, however you want to look at it.
8. I had Mr. Megatron, Calvin Johnson.
Eli.
I had Peyton. Pulling Bob Alvis.
We're waiting for Bob to get to that later.
No, I actually don't have Peyton in the top 10.
What you guys said.
Right, I know.
Just, I mean, it was low. I wasn't going to take him any higher than that.
Eli, you know, I'll be honest with you, I kind of ran out of names at this point. I mean, I think Eli has had... You got good Eli and you got bad Eli. I guess I was thinking more good Eli when I put down his name.
Yeah.
But, you know, if the Giants had to start backup, whoever it is...
It's not Jesse Palmer.
I mean,
now Eli has the record for current players for
one point it was
starts.
Right.
Stays healthy.
One point it was Jared Lorenzen. I wonder if he's still there.
They had David Carr at one point too, but I think he's moved on.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, Eli would get my vote. Megatron.
Calvin Johnson. I think he's the best player on the Lions, right up there for me with Fitzgerald as best receiver. How many? You know, who were their other wideouts that really did anything?
It's one of
Nate Burleson, Titus Young, Brandon Pettigrew.
Yeah, you're right. There you go.
I mean, that was the problem with that. That's why I don't think Johnson had he could have had a better year if those three had stepped up more to take some of the pressure off them.
Titus Young, a Boise State guy.
That sounds right.
Okay, I thought so. I mean, I know that Detroit Green Bay game really probably didn't matter a lot to certain people in Week 17. But you wouldn't look at Calvin Johnson's stats and say he mailed it in. I mean, what, 214?
You have 3 touchdowns?
I mean, my God. I mean, that's Tecmo Bowl numbers right there, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, we went Tecmo Bowl. We went old school for you. 7, I'll go first. And I got Matt Stafford.
David Akers.
Interesting. I didn't think of any kickers. I had Arian Foster.
You know, I think Stafford and Megatron work hand in hand. I do have Megatron later. But you take Stafford away, like you had been doing the past couple of years, I don't think they're as good, obviously. In my opinion, it's obvious.
Really? Akers had 44 field goals made this year. The next, John Casey, 28.
Wow.
Yeah. He averaged 10.4 points a game. They're not... San Francisco does not get a bye if it wasn't for him. Period. End of discussion for that.
I did think it was pretty stupid.
Hold on, wait. I want to give Will Castle applause because that's some hard work right there.
Yeah, he did some research.
I just wrote down names and I just have opinions. But, I mean, that's pretty remarkable and considering I think a lot of people don't even consider kickers players.
Yeah.
To a degree. I mean, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, oh no. And that's one thing. It's that being a kicker is probably more stress-filled than being a quarterback sometimes. Because you're expected to... It's like, oh, you've got to kick the ball. And you come out twice a game, but you're the reason a team... You are the reason a team wins. That's crazy.
I think being the snapper and the holder is a little bit more nerve-wracking than the kicker.
But what I was going to say is that I did think from the beginning of the year that the Eagles were stupid to let him go.
Yeah.
See, I thought he was done. I mean, I didn't think he could... I'm not saying done, but I'm sure you don't have it in your research there. But some of his field goals were 50.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I mean, to do that in the Bay Area...
Yeah, he had a lot of over 50.
I mean, not that I know a lot of games this year in San Francisco that were just, blustery wind and rain or anything like that. But, I mean, at his age...
It's a tough place to kick.
Right. That's exactly.
Certainly.
I mean, so I thought his field goal range at this point in his life would be 35 and in. But
It is so weird with kickers. I mean,
Morton
Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was over 40.
Gary Anderson, too.
Yeah. It's something... I've never understood why it seems like kickers have just such longevity. It seemed like the legs would be like the first thing to go.
Right. Because, I mean, it's some of this, too, is the strength of the leg. And, I mean, I would figure a guy that's a kicker could probably always kick a 35-yarder. Because, I mean, that's only being snapped from the 18.
Yeah.
But I would think once you get snapping from about the 25, that's 42.
Yeah.
And, I mean...
That was part of never... See, the way I always thought it, like, you're a college kicker. You're 20 years old. You should be able to kick a 60-yard kick just because you're young. But then most of them barely make it past 40 yards.
Right.
It's just,
It's weird.
I had Foster. I know he's had some injury issues, but I think he's Houston's best player. They made the playoffs. They had their best year.
6.
I took Gronkowski.
Okay.
He gave Brady a
Let's
target.
go around.
Oh, okay.
Then we'll come back.
Well, you paused for a second. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to explain.
No, I just said okay. Sorry.
I need a dramatic pause for this one. Jesus Christ.
Tim Tebow. Jones Drew.
Who?
Jones
Jones Drew.
Oh, I think it's like, who's Drew?
No. Yeah,
Joe Drew.
Joe's Drew.
he's the next quarterback for Houston. He's like
He's a long
Yates.
snapper.
He's David Akers' long snapper, exactly. Go with the Gronk.
I mean, he gave Brady a new target besides Welker. You know, Welker had a great season because of Gronkowski. Hernandez had a great. You know, it's kind of both them.
Ochocinco did not.
Well, Ochocinco was arguably the biggest
And
bust
he's not
of
on
the
this
entire,
list.
season.
I would have had Tebow higher on this list if he had played worth the crap in the last couple weeks.
He lost every vote he would have ever had from me.
But
with that Kansas City game,
all you got to do is look at how the team was before he started being the starter, and if anyone thought that they were going to make the playoffs after week 6 or whatever, they're a rich person right now.
Yeah.
Jones Drew is purely a numbers thing for me. And, he led the NFL in rushing, and at this point, I think a lot of people forget about Maurice Jones-Drew in that top echelon of running backs. I think a lot of people want to mention Adrian Peterson.
Yeah.
I would say Chris Johnson going in, Gore, people like that, and I think Maurice Jones-Drew is forgotten.
Well, it doesn't help the fact that you're playing in Jacksonville for
Right.
Yeah.
a city that doesn't deserve a football team.
They don't even get there. The locals don't even get to see their games because they're all blacked out probably.
Well, then you have to drive 2 feet and get a damn ticket.
Yeah.
I agree. 5.
5, I have Ray Rice.
Calvin Johnson.
LaShawn McCoy.
All right. Ray Rice, best player for the Ravens. You were wise to pick him in the first round of your draft. I think he's a fancy player's dream. He can catch it. He can run.
Not that I don't feel like a dumbass often, but I have neither one of the guys you just mentioned in my top 10 with McCoy or Rice. I think McCoy's a great pick, too. The reason I picked Megatron, Calvin Johnson, I just think he changes the game. I mean, if Detroit doesn't have him, that's the best thing Matt Millen ever did for that franchise. He should have quit right then. Maybe he gets a statue outside of Ford Field.
He should pull a Costanza.
Right.
One joking out of the room.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get a statue.
But, Calvin Johnson, to me, it's kind of like we talked about in an earlier podcast with the tight ends. He is different from every other receiver in the league, in my opinion. I think he's one guy that Stafford can really, truly throw the ball up, and Calvin Johnson can go get it.
He plays almost like there are no defenders.
Yeah, even when he's not jumping, and the defensive back is jumping, he's reaching, and he's still taller without jumping. Wonder why he wasn't better in college. I mean, he was good in college. He was a stud, but I just wonder... Georgia Tech. I just wonder how he wasn't...
Well, they had Reggie Ball.
A Heisman, at least in the discussion, but...
It's hard in college for a receiver to get Heisman talk because someone's got to get the ball to you.
Right.
That's the problem. In McCoy, don't get me wrong, it hurt, putting an eagle on here hurt me, but Vic was so inconsistent this year. The only consistency that team had was McCoy. When he ran the ball, every time he could just break through the middle. He wasn't an end arounder, he goes straight for the gut. And has a chance to score every damn time.
I'll tell you, LaShawn McCoy's not there. Andy Reid's maybe looking for a job.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me. 4. I guess it brings it back to me. Gronk.
Ray Rice.
Eli.
I mean, we see Calvin Johnson. Gronkowski is such a matchup problem, I think. And, I honestly think he's what gives the Patriots a shot to win the Super Bowl. Just his presence alone.
Rice. Baltimore's not in the playoffs without him.
Yeah, I think, the Giants aren't, they didn't make the playoffs by much, but they're definitely not in the playoffs without Eli Manning. What's
the Giants' best win this year to you guys? I mean, obviously...
That Patriots game.
Yeah. Worst loss?
Redskins. When they should have... The second Redskins loss.
Don't forget about that Seattle
That's
game.
what I was going to say, the game against Seattle.
I didn't really see that a lot, so I couldn't really judge it.
I mean, but
the reason I said it's like that game was they really had their best chance of kind of wrapping up against a inferior team and just choked it like a dog. And just the fact that they were having to play Dallas and able to beat them, but They had an easy opportunity.
I could see them losing to the Redskins just because it's a division game. I think we all here know me well enough to know West Coast traveling to East Coast. I normally think it's just a
recipe for disaster.
Right, exactly. And that might have been the only game I lost this year that I had 16 on. I think I had 16 on that game. I mean, that to me was their worst loss. But hey,
I think I would also say their win against the Jets was pretty impressive.
And he's a guy to where I think out of all the quarterbacks in the NFC, not named Aaron Rodgers, I think he can engineer a 2-minute drive better than Breeze and have the Giants win that game.
I agree.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's just me on that. 3.
My turn.
Yep.
Giselle's boy, Tom Brady.
Brady.
We
might have a agreement.
You want to go with your reasoning first, and then we'll get to Scott's and mine.
It's Tom Brady. I mean, he's Tom Brady. I mean, he still plays great.
I would almost like to do. I thought about doing Tom Brady / Wes Welker because they just work so well together.
Do you think Tom Brady's legacy at all was cheapened by the year that he went down in Week 2 and Matt Castle came in and filled in, just as admirably?
Is Aaron Rodgers' legacy cheapened by Matt Flynn
throwing
6 touchdowns?
We'll get to that.
That's the same.
It's not the same.
I mean, it's one game versus.
It's one of those that.
I guess
New England, it's not always about the one player, it's about the team.
Right. I guess my question is Brady a system guy? I mean, obviously we're not going to really know.
Right.
Because I don't see him leaving.
But, yeah.
Well, then he's a pretty damn good system guy.
And in many levels, every quarterback, I think, is a system guy. It's just a matter of how adaptable are they.
I agree.
I think he's but that system was in place. That's why Castle had a great season, and that's why he's making more money than he honestly should right now.
And to me, this was the year of the quarterback. I mean, obviously, I think I'm not speaking out of turn when I say our top 3. But all of us are going to have quarterbacks in that top 3. So,
I would say about him too that when you talk about the 2-minute drill, I mean, he does that as well as anybody.
Yeah.
It's almost like other people are really working hard through a 2-minute drill. It's almost like you've heard the expression the game slows down.
Yeah.
It's almost like it slows down for him during that 2-minute drill. Didn't he also break Marino's record this year too?
Yes.
Okay.
What was it? It was 5,000 even or 5?
No,
it had to be something. It couldn't be 5 even.
Because Breeze, Brady, and Stafford all had over 5,000.
See, to me, that cheapens the record a little bit when because I think when I hate to get on a different sport here, but when McGuire broke Maris's record,
weird thing I knew you would bring up baseball.
When McGuire broke should I look at Scott?
No.
When McGuire broke Maris's record, the fact that Sosa also got it, I think kind of tarnished it. It didn't give McGuire as much, even though there was that moment when he hit 62.
Steroids.
Yeah. I know, but I mean, you get where I'm going. It's not the same to me when 2 guys break in the same year.
Here's where I would disagree with that. McGuire, I'm not sure breaks the record without Sosa.
Agreed.
Because Sosa took so much pressure off him. Yes, the steroids helped a boatload.
Plus, it pushed him to play better.
Yeah,
I mean, he had a guy right there. That he wanted to be
he's like, oh, I gotta. Because it's possible that McGuire wasn't, taking a needle and showing up his keister. His goal is not, I'm going to break Maris's record. Like, I'm just going to hit a lot of home runs.
Right.
Then he's like, oh, there's someone going to.
See, the thing too about football, and I'm not trying to make a case that baseball is a better sport than football or anything, but we don't know numbers for football records as much, unless we're talking.
Baseball is a stats game.
Team Super Bowl type thing, and I think when people say, "Wow, Drew Brees broke the passing record," it's more of who held it rather than what was the number.
Yes.
So, number 2, should we all go in 1, 2, 3 unison?
Well, we might have different picks.
Let's
go around. I have Drew Brees.
I have Drew Brees.
I have Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
I've thought about this more.
All right. Well, I mean, Brees would definitely be number 1 in any other year. I tend to go with the team record a little bit. I give it to the team that's 15-1, but I mean, Brees was incredible. I do think Brees is not quite as accurate as Rodgers. He does throw more picks. I haven't seen the numbers, but
I think they're so similar. But it's weird. I think they're so similar, but I think Rodgers is better at the same time. I think if you take the Saints receivers and running game and send them to Green Bay and send Green Bay's receivers and running game to New Orleans, I don't think there's any difference at all. I really don't. So the reason I just said I think Rodgers is slightly better is why I have Breeze second.
Well, it's more of a the reason. Okay, so y'all have Rodgers 1, obviously, right?
yes.
You have Breeze 1, obviously.
Yes. All right. And now, if you look back, if you listen back to other podcasts, I said 5 weeks ago, Rodgers MVP. One thing changed that. Week 17, his name was Matt Flynn. System. That system got Matt Flynn that, which kind of showed Rodgers not playing. That team still does pretty damn good. Breeze is not playing. New Orleans, I don't think they win as many as they do. I think it showed a little bit more that it's not just Rodgers completely. A lot of that's the system. But with New Orleans, a lot of that is more Breeze than the system. That's the only reason I take Breeze. The record helps, but,
Right. You want to take this?
I would say I think that the Week 17 definitely closed the gap between two. And if Breeze wins the MVP, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. You think they'll try to do this code bullshit like they do with McNair and Peyton?
They could.
All right, here's where I'm going to disagree with you.
All right.
If you ask me the defining moment of Aaron Rodgers' season, it's that Giants game. I mean, Green Bay, I think, falls down by 2, I believe. And I think there was like a minute and... Don't worry, nobody's coming in the house. I think there's like about a minute... I think there's about like a minute and some change left. I don't even think there was a minute and a half. And Rodgers throws that strike and then gets that strike to Jordy Nelson, gets out of bounds, and Crosby kicks a field goal. Matt Flynn doesn't do that. That's why, I understand what you're saying, yes. And I think Week 17, more than taking away the MVP from Rodgers, if that happens, I think Week 17 earned Matt Flynn a whole lot of money.
Okay.
And we're going to get to that in the team talk of this. But I don't think that takes away Rodgers MVP. I think Week 17, like I said, I treat it more as 2012 preseason Week 1. But I think if Rodgers or Breeze wins, if Tom Brady wins the MVP, I got a problem.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those two.
If Rodgers or Breeze wins the MVP, but is your style of voting on MVP like mine, or is it different? Mine is, if you take him off the team.
I'm kind of back and forth on it. If like you said, I think if Breeze not on the team, I don't think they don't win near as many.
You don't think Chase Daniel steps in and does what Drew Brees did?
But it's just one of those that Packers, if I system type of thing. But again, I got again, I've been saying at the beginning of the year Rodgers going to get MVP, and then just that Week 17 just really kind of like.
My 2 favorite votes you had were the Peyton Manning vote. And then David Akers vote, I almost called him Drew Akers. David Akers, just because you had the numbers to back it up. That shows the work.
That's right.
How do you vote? You had Tebow, so obviously you're not voting on stats the whole way.
Well, yeah, but I do put a lot of stock in how a team finished. I don't think I would ever pick an MVP from a team that didn't make the playoffs.
Now, this is going to be different. I'll talk to Scott right now. I hate to get into baseball. But is a Cy Young type of thing, which is different because it's basically rewarding the best pitcher.
Yeah.
Do you take in numbers on that, or do you take in Felix Hernandez won the Cy Young a few years ago? Seattle was not good, but his numbers were really good. Or do you give it to
Kershaw this year?
Right.
Cy Young, and
But do you look at if you take this guy off the team, or do you give it to the best pitcher?
You can't really do that with baseball, though.
Yeah, baseball is such a numbers game that it's kind of.
I think they're in high school the awards they do at the end is normally they call it Player of the Year. To me, there are 2 differences. Player of the Year is a person with the best stats type thing. MVP is if you take this guy away.
Yeah.
And that's how I think. I almost think in all sports there should be a Player of the Year and an MVP.
There should be an MOP, MVP.
Yep.
Most outstanding player, most valuable.
And could it be
player.
the same guy some years?
Sometimes, yeah.
Why not?
Absolutely, but
I mean, I'll say one thing with baseball. I don't think the pitcher should not get MVP.
Let's not open up that camera.
That's for another podcast, folks.
Yeah.
We're going to tease you on that.
Ooh.